And so I had 5 years because I had a redshirt year with a medical injury. So after my third year, and I always tell people, we have indelible markers in our life. Meaning we have events in our lives, experiences in our lives, choices in our life that will impact us throughout our lives. And therefore influence others because we are interdependent of one another. So after my third year, with 2 more years ago, my college roommate and teammate, Pat Harmon, he was one of those that he could have played Division II, probably Division I as well. He was a starter since the day he was recruited. And it was a summer day. He said, let's work out together. It was before my junior year. He said, let's work out together. He lived in Monmouth Beach. I live in Ocean Township, 15-minute drive. He said, we're going to go to my high school. We're going to work out. We're going to run in the field. So we're going to do all these things. And so Pat, who was established, right, was someone I looked up to athletically. So we go to Shore Regional High School, work out in the morning in the gym. We go out in the field, run. We have our cleats with us. We drive to Atlantic Highlands, which has, for some reason, just on the beach has elevation. And we went to this elementary school. We put on our cleats. We run up and down these hills. And by late morning, muggy, hot, spent, and felt like that was a great workout. I mean, we were in the gym. We were out in the field. We're running these hills. I had my tailgate down in my truck, taking my cleats off, putting our shoes on. And I go to get in the driver's side of my truck to leave. And he starts walking that way, away from my truck. I'm like, what are you doing? He pointed to this road. He said, we're going to run up there. I'm like, man, we've done even more than enough, right? But I followed Pat, and we started running up this hill. And at first, he was right next to me in this street, burning asphalt. And we're running up the street. He's next to me. He's encouraging. He's challenging me. And then he goes past me. And he gets to the top of this where the hill just rounded up. And he turned back to me. And he was encouraging, challenging. Come on. And he called me Trep. Come on, Trep. You got this. Let's go. Let's go. And my head was pounding. My chest was bursting. My legs were on fire. I'm done. I mean, my body just feels like it's going to explode. And in that moment, I can rationalize and justify. We did more than I would ever do on my own. Think about it. When we have other people, we get sharper, right? We have someone else pushing, challenging us in excellence, we get sharper. We're interdependent. But I started to slow down. I mean, this is like in slow motion. And Grant, this was over 30 years ago. And I say indelible, an imprint that doesn't leave. And here is how I was deceived. And I'll talk about being deceived, how we get distracted, we get dumbed down. That enables us to rationalize, to justify, to compromise in things in our life. I started slowing down. And Pat was on top of the hill. And I told him that I can't make it. I'm done. See, the deception was, man, he seemed like a million miles away. But the fact is, he could hear me and I can hear him, so he wasn't that far away. But that didn't matter. Reality didn't matter. It was the deception of how I felt. And as I started slowing down, he put his hands on his knees and he said, how bad do you want it? How bad did I want it? What was it that I wanted, and what was I willing to do to get it? I got up the hill. I chose. You're not a winner, you're not a loser, you're a chooser. I chose to push through. I chose, even regardless of how I felt, to take the challenge, the lead, to get up the top of the hill. And that indelible mark in my life, I went in that year, I leapfrogged a bunch of guys. My junior and senior year, I was one of the 2 starters at receiver, had my catches, had my touchdowns. We were a good team. Wasn't going to be a professional athlete, but I will tell you this. If I didn't make it up that hill, if I chose to stop where I was, I would not be standing here talking to you. I would not be able, over the last 2 decades, to influence coaching athletes through Fellowship of Christian Athletes, to coach and speak to organizations and teams and sales groups of businesses and helping them develop themselves so that they are more equipped in who they are and what they're doing and where and how they're doing it. See, the deception is we live in a world that mediocrity is celebrated, that rationalizing, justifying not doing something is okay, that being a victim and people just allowing you to be is okay. But just like you all and myself, we're called to be and live excellent. So what is the challenge? The challenge is, yes, we are, talk to coaches and athletes, we're conformed to believe that our value is something that we have to purchase, whether it's a product or a service. Right? That we get deceived in being dumbed down in our culture. It is imperative that we have civic clubs, like Rotary clubs and Kiwanis, all those organizations like yourself that volunteer to come in to make an impact in the community, that the community can see what it is to be excellent, that we are to shine. I tell coaches and athletes and whoever I speak to that you have value beyond your wins and losses. You have value beyond your victories and your failures. You have value beyond if you're the starter and star who's getting a scholarship or the kid sitting on the bench. That of 8 billion people on this planet, each one of us, our thumbprint is uniquely ours. It means there's value in that. And for us to communicate that to others by challenging and encouraging them, how do we do that? By how we live. How we go about doing and being in our own lives, but we have to know we have that value. That value in there that we have, the world needs. That we're interdependent on one another. Right? Just like football, no matter how well independently at the position practice that the quarterbacks are working, their drop backs and their accuracy of their passing, all those different things, the mechanics of that. Those quarterbacks are depending on the offensive lineman working on their mechanics, doing the same thing that they can block. Receivers learning how to get separation from a defensive back and practice catching so that they can be in the best position. So that as a team, you have victory. We are interdependent on one another, and it's important for individuals, all of us, to understand the value that we have placed on us, the thumbprint that God has pressed upon us, that we have gifts and abilities that this world needs. Running up that hill, what I learned about myself that I would not have, now, and this is important for all of us, individually, we won't aspire and do and be beyond what we do when someone is partnering with us, that someone's coaching us, someone's challenging us. If Pat wasn't there, I wasn't running that hill. I mean, if I did extra run up, put the cleats on and run up and down the hill at the elementary school, I was patting myself on the back. Right? I did more than most people would. But in choosing to continue up, the resolve, the resiliency, the stick-to-itiveness, the drive, all the perseverance that was in me would have never come out. It was choosing that came out, the realization that there's more in me than I knew. And so challenging young people, which I get an opportunity to do on a daily basis, which I'm blessed to, that the value that they have is something that has to be dug out. It has to be uncovered and discovered. Our phones, everything that makes this chair, this building, satellites, rocket ships, bombs, medical equipment, everything that makes those products has always been in the earth since time has begun. Since this earth has been here. But it had to be dug. It had to be uncovered and discovered. Someone had to have a mindset and giftings, and other people come alongside to take it and bring it to the value that it serves that we have right now. So what is the challenge? The challenge that we have, and I think for all of us, to be stewards of what we've been given, the day that we've been given, the opportunity, the interactions, the conversations that we have to add value. And it's understanding your identity and who you are on a daily basis, speaking truth about who you are. There's a difference between facts and truths. Right? It was a fact for 95% of the time that mankind has been on this earth that the earth was flat. It was a fact. Right? I mean, people could get killed, beheaded, thrown in prison for saying it was it was round or a ball, a sphere. But when it became undeniable that it was round, that the earth is round, it didn't just become true. Right? It always had been truth. It had to be discovered. I think that for all of us, that when we live our lives of excellence, we live from our identity. Every day, searching, paying attention to myself, learning that I am a servant leader, I'm a teacher, encourager, listener, helper, student. Having a mindset that I can be taught, that I need to be taught on a daily basis, that I have something to offer on a daily basis. I believe every day we're to listen and learn, every day we're to speak and teach. Because every day that, on a cover of my second book, Live the Life of Excellence, is a silhouette of one person reaching up and one person reaching down. And we are both of them. Every day we are charged to help other people. At the same time, to get input, to be sown into, to be invested into, that we can trust others that are there in our lives. Like I had Pat in my life that I can put my hand, I can trust him to help pull me up, to challenge me to get up that hill. Right? To know that I am disciplined and humble, that I'm godly, positive, that I'm vibrant, that I'm a helper, that I'm a sower into other people's lives. Am I always disciplined and humble? No. But overall, that's what I speak. Therefore, what you expose your mind to, it'll be attracted to. What you expose your mind to, it'll be attracted to. And that includes your identity. And my purpose, as I said earlier, just as your purpose as a group, as a purpose of all we should be in the community, is to love, serve, and contribute where we are through the value that we have. And it's knowing our identity, because the more you know your identity, the more you know who you're not. And the more you know who your identity, you set yourself like a thermostat. This is who I am. Therefore, you respond to things in life from there. Or we can be a thermostat and just go with feelings and emotions, how the day's going up or down, and then we react to other people and their circumstances. And the world needs thermostats. The world needs to see people set, right? The thermostat set on a daily basis. Who you are, what your characteristics are, and what's your purpose on a daily basis. And that is what, we got young people that are just wanderers, conforming. And it is for us to step in and not just speak it, but to show it. Going up that hill that day, I learned that you can push through. You can persevere through. You can work through difficulties and hardships. Is it easier? No. Is it difficult? Yes, but it's more enriching, it's more fulfilling, it's more satisfying, because we are created to contribute. We were created with the value that this world needs. And the more that we can teach that, we can speak that, and we can live it, the better for the rest of us, because everyone depends on us, because we're interdependent. And I was out at a coffee shop years ago, and this guy, he had this, beautiful suit, looked great in it, nice suit. It was over $1,000 in my estimation of just the brand and how it looked from the shoes to the tie they had on, everything. He looked sharp, really sharp. I'm in the coffee shop, and I was behind him. There's a guy in front of him. This guy in front of him was getting his coffee, and he was like trying to talk on the phone, and he was real gruff, and he grabbed his coffee. He turned. As he turned, he hit the chest of that guy in that suit. Oh, and this dude in the suit was big too. He's a big dude. And I was like, oh man, it's about to go down. And the guy who had the coffee, who was reckless and just whipped around, was like, come on, man, I've been waiting in line. You're in my way, all that stuff. Just flipping out. And like, this guy's got coffee dripping from his tie. His jacket. I was like, oh, dang. Hope he ain't from Jersey. The guy in the suit, without pause, hesitation, said, I'm sorry about your coffees. Let me get you some new ones. Can you order him 2 more coffees? I was like, dude. And he's, as someone handed him something, even look, just pat, he's like, let me buy him 2 more coffees. I'm sorry for that. The guy who coffees was, what was he? It just changed him right on the spot. I was like, he couldn't keep being mad. And I watched that. That guy had a thermostat set. He was responding from who he was. He was not going to react because of that. Now, that takes a lot. But I don't believe that's happenstance. I believe that's intentional, of that man knowing his identity, knowing who he is. And he impacted everyone in that room. He does not know. I don't know him. He doesn't know me. He doesn't know I'm standing here years later talking about him. But the impact he made had me thinking the same thing after that. I want to be like that. I want to set my thermostat. I want to be someone who doesn't change because of a little thing, because little things happen. But the bigger picture is that he influenced not only me and everyone else in there, but the guy who had the coffees. There's always someone watching you without you knowing that you have the ability to bless. There's always someone watching you that you have the ability to bless. It's us choosing to be excellent in those moments, choosing to operate and execute from a position of knowing who we are and knowing that we add value to the circumstance, situation, regardless of what brought about that circumstance and that situation. So as you all volunteer to be a part of an organization, your time, your money, your dollars, but your effort, but your heart, it doesn't go unnoticed. You are impacting someone who's watching you that you don't even know. So my encouragement is keep being you and keep growing in you and keep allowing God to work in and through you, because the value that he's placed on that thumbprint of yours is immeasurable, and and others depend on you living it and living it well. It's a choice we get to make. We're not winners, we're not losers, but we are choosers. Choose well. Appreciate Jimmy for the opportunity to come speak, man. Thanks, brother.
Any questions? Any questions or anything? Anybody?
So I think Justin put me onto a book.
Hey, Justin.
In my last book, it was Just One More. Is that right?
Power of One More.
Power of One More, yes.
So that was kind of similar to your story as you're running up that hill.
Right.
And I think we do get complacent at times and say we're in sales and we've made our quota, so
Right.
we say, good. Even though we still have a half day to go.
Yeah.
So we go play golf and we
Right.
Right, or whatever. So any tips you would have for, and I'm guilty of
Mhm.
doing that, just so you know. But any tips you would have for folks that, hey, yeah, you may have hit an okay spot, but
Right.
there's more.
Yeah.
And here's how to find out how.
Right, and that's a great thought process, and that is what I pretty much work with individuals one-on-one. They're kind of stuck, but they rationalized it. I think one is being challenged by what you read, taking something from everything that you read that challenges you where you are. I think having an accountability partner, whether it's in your group or whether it's just someone who, I have a mentor, I have an accountability partner, I have a coach I have a John Mouse coach. We every 2 weeks we're on Zoom. I mean, she's in Toronto, so it's Zoom, but challenges me with what I'm doing and where I'm at. Because I believe that you can do more where you are with what you've been given. That we easily can see, and I mentioned this before, how mediocrity is okay. And mediocrity isn't just something going down to, it's something staying. So my encouragement always has people in your life that are challenging you where you are and holding you accountable for it. And as a coach, it's all right. So how are you going to get there? What is it that you're going to do? I talk about addition by subtraction by addition. Things you want to subtract that are scrolling, but it's not to stop doing something, ignoring, but it's adding other things, reading, listening to podcasts, journaling, asking yourself questions about it, and having someone hold you accountable. So that would be my recommendation for that. Yes, sir.
What's your, your favorite book of all time?
Well, my favorite book of all time is Run with the Horses, Eugene Peterson. I don't know if you're familiar with Eugene Peterson. Eugene Peterson wrote a plain speak, a translation of the Bible called The Message. And the book Run with the Horses challenges me, and I use it with athletes, and they're like, oh my gosh. So it's based on one verse of scripture, and it's about Jeremiah complaining that things are getting hard, and God's telling him to do stuff and wants to do it. And Jeremiah's complaining, and God's like, I've put in you the ability to do this. And are you going to be like the rest of this is one page, I read this page every day. Are you going to be like, are you going to complain and say like this? Or are you going to run with the horses? I mean, are you going to be a thoroughbred? Are you going to excel where it's hard? The rest of the world is parasitic, neurotic, easily staying mediocre, but you weren't created for that. You were created to stretch. You're created to be uncomfortable because it brings fulfillment. It brings in who you are called to be. And the book just challenges me, but I have this one page, I read it every day. Because and he says it, he's like, man, I don't think Jeremiah just immediately said, yeah, I'll do that. But it says he thought about it. He went back and forth. I can do really, really hard stuff that God's calling me, or I can just live like everyone else. But it says his answer was in his life. His answer was bibliographical. His life was, I'll run with the horses. Because we were called to excel, all of us. So that's my favorite book so far. I should say a John Maxwell book, but those two. Those two. All of them. Yes.
I took a leadership class, a couple of weeks ago, and it's kind of similar to what you're talking about, having someone challenge you to go up the hill. And I didn't really get what she said. I thought, oh, this is just, I can't do this.
Right.
And she's like, who's your board? Who sits on your board? And I'm like, what do you mean? And she's like, like a business has center of influences. Like,
right.
Who are yours? Can't be your spouse. Can't be your siblings. Can't be your family. It has to be people that make you strive harder.
Yes.
And I was like, oh my God, who am I going to ask? And she's like, your board should be a patchwork quilt of just completely different people that are going to make you strive higher because you see that they've gone higher.
Right. And that was Pat, right? He topped the hill. I have a mentor, I have a coach, and I have an accountability partner. And all three of them just make me continually. The first step's your most important step. It's when you wake up. I learned, my position coach, I had 5 years of football, 5 different position coaches at receiver. And the last one, I was already settled. Like I said, I reached the mountaintop figuratively. I became a starter, had a good junior season. So my senior season, I'm a senior and get this new coach who wants to change how we are on the line of scrimmage. And it was just so methodical. It just felt so natural. But I didn't have a choice because he's the coach. And I work on it. And what he kept saying was your first step will be the most important in that what you do first will influence the rest of what you're trying to do. And just like your day, you have an opponent, right? Life. Maybe not necessarily opponent. It might be someone else who's trying to compete with you in sales or something, but life is an opponent, right? And the whole thing was your first step has to put you in the best position specifically for a receiver to break free from the defensive back who's trying to keep you from running your pattern, to help you get separation so that you're in a position that the quarterback has an option for you. Interdependency, right? And I had to choose to do it. And practice. Practice doesn't make perfect. Practice makes permanent. Right? What you practice becomes permanent. It might not be perfect, but if you are taught being teachable, how to be teachable, that is a posture that I have to intentionally do, because as adults, there's so much things we don't have to learn anymore. When we're kids, we had to learn. We do very hard things as a kid. Learning how to walk wasn't easy, but we did it, right? Learning math, subtract, addition and subtract, learning the multiplication tables, right? Those things we could say, no, I don't want to do it, but parents are like, you have to do it. There's things we had. Oh my gosh, learning how to drive. I mean, that was something. 14 or 15. Like, are they going to tell me which pedal? Is it going to be written down? Gas, stop, brake, all those things. But we did it. But as we get older, we rationalize. Well, I got my job. I'm making money. But we forget the biggest investment, the most important investment that we can make is within ourselves. And that is a advanced decision on a daily basis that I'm going to invest in me. And my first step every day, because your mind just wants to go to all the stuff you got to do, I need to invest in me. And for me, it's prayer, it's being the word, it's meditating on scripture, it's speaking those words. I'm a servant leader, teacher, encourager, listener, helper, sower other people's lives. I am humble, disciplined, I'm godly, positive, I'm vibrant. I'm a sower in other people's lives. To what? The purpose, to love, serve, and contribute. I set that every day. I have a whole litany of other quotes and scriptures and empowering words. I'm empowered and vigorous, I'm strengthened, I'm bold, and I'm persistent, I can persevere, I can excel, I have the stick-to-itiveness. Because what you expose your mind to, it gets attracted to. So your mind gets attracted to more empowering, more challenging. Like same with books. When you buy a new car, right? Then you see that car all the time on the road, right? What you expose your mind to is attracted to. So the first step is the most important step. What will you expose your mind to? And you are the most important investment for you. And we invest in other people, but you can't have any more output than the input that you're receiving. And here's something that's very important. You are worth it. You are worth the value that God has placed on you for you to choose to uncover and discover. I worked at a health club in Raleigh a long time ago before I moved down here, and the manager's like, look, I got this lady who's in my church, her name's Dorothy, I want you to, train her, work her out. I'm like, okay, she's coming tonight. All right, sorry. And he opens the door and says, here she comes. And I'm just, I'm kind of like standing there like, where's she coming? And she was in a walker. She was 90 years old. She was like this. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me. And she was slumped over and she didn't want to be there anymore. Not that I didn't want her to be there. I'm like, how am I going to do it? So she comes in, and we didn't even use weights, trying to just do body functions. I remember getting her on this bike, I can't remember what they call it, with the fan thing, and she rode like 6 seconds. And then she got off, and she was done. She was spent. I'm like, I'm never going to see Dorothy again. Next day, here she comes. And she would come in and then finally put some weights in her hands, and she does 20 seconds on the bike, 30 seconds on the bike. And then one day, her indelible marker, she opens the door and she has a cane and she's walking. And she puts her hand up to me, I got this. She grabs her weights, gets on her bike. Weeks later, push that door and walks in. Her countenance has changed. Her shoulders are up, her chin is up, she's smiling. Her whole demeanor has changed. She starts talking about how she started swimming again, how she started getting back in a Bible study, and she has these young women who see the value in her. Indelible.